All right, welcome to Agent After Hours. I'm Tyler Morton,
And Ann Taylor with M&M Title Company.
here with another segment of What If. And today we're talking about what if you have clients that have lost 25 offers in the last 2 weeks and they ask you if they should waive inspections.
Okay. Not that that would happen.
Never.
Not that that would happen. And that's where we are. That's the market we're presently in. Buyers are wondering how can they make their offer look the best.
Right.
And, the short answer is no contingencies, cash tomorrow. Let the sellers stay there for free as long as they want and go to the highest price you can possibly afford.
And you'll name your firstborn after them.
And that too. And us.
Yeah.
But so you've got to be, you are the trusted advisor. And something that I often bring up in the Ask the Attorney sessions that we do at the offices is whenever something goes wrong, because I receive the phone calls from other attorneys who are suing one of my clients who is a realtor, and I receive the calls from the consumers looking for a real estate attorney. Most attorneys will at some point get their clients to the place of who advised you to do this? Who told you to do this?
Right.
You are there to follow your client's instructions. You can help explain to them, just as I started there, that you can make an offer that is so not in your own best interest and in somebody else's best interest that they can't help but accept it. But we've just acknowledged that that's so not in your own best interest. Really important that you try to ground them. I think it's a good process to start with your client and outline their parameters. Not only the house parameters, what are you looking for, what are your compromises, what are your not compromises, before they get in the heat of the moment, before they get 25 properties in that they're desperate and crying, and lay out the parameters of financial contingencies. What can we do, what can we not do? Appraisal waivers, what can we do, what can we not do? Inspections. Is it wise to not have inspections? It's different for different clients.
Sure.
Some might have the financial ability to make a certain level of repairs. Some might make the presumption that those repairs are within their affordability. And if it needs a whole new roof and a whole new furnace out of nowhere, and you waived inspections, what are you going to do there?
Right.
If your lender's going to come back and have things that come up that you don't have the ability to pay for. Had a story shared with me at a meeting the other day where, actually I think it was on one of the social media chats where somebody had waived inspections and then they said it's not a contingency, but we're going to have one done just for our own benefit. Just know what we're getting.
Right.
And up came a major electrical panel replacement.
Sure.
And then they asked the seller to replace it. They weren't financially prepared for
Right.
that level of expense.
Well, and I don't want to say that's a minor expense. That's
of all the things
of all
it
the
could
things,
be. Right.
a
Right.
foundation problem is a much bigger concern. So yeah, I think there's a lot to consider when you're considering waiving inspections.
Lot of variables.
A lot of variables. Hey, is the person purchasing the home, are they a general contractor that can take care of a lot of these things?
Is it a flip that they are experienced flippers, they're going to gut it anyway?
Yep.
Or do major remodels and they already know? That's a very different scenario than your average home buyer, let alone the average home buyer right now who is having a hard time getting under contract, and that is often a first-time buyer. And traditionally, and not all are the same, but traditionally, they may be the most overwhelmed with new home ownership.
What's a
and
furnace
what that
filter?
entails. Yeah, right, and the costs, and I get calls all the time from home buyers, but especially first-time home buyers who 6 months later something goes wrong and they're beside themselves over the fact that they think it was concealed from them. And I'm like, no, a water heater could be working fine and then it goes that bad. You really have to have evidence to go back on the seller. So if a buyer's not going to have recourse, if it's something that's an ordinary breakdown, let alone something you could have, we are a buyer beware state. And if you could have found it in your inspections.
So should an agent ever tell a client, you should waive inspections.
No, absolutely not. That would be, that's.
You're just setting yourself
a
up.
tremendous liability. If that, let alone if it's a consistent pattern, right?
Right.
It's, if there's always a he said, she said, and you said, there's no way I said that. But if they can go back and find your last 5 clients or the other people that are your colleagues or people you talk to, and they said, oh yeah, Tyler, he always says that. He always says, listen, you better waive inspections otherwise I'm wasting my time. And you're begging to be sued.
You're guaranteeing that the house is free of defects. I mean, to some extent, right?
Yeah, and that's the effective type of ruling that courts love to get,
Right.
is if you're saying it's not a problem, you don't need to worry about it, you've just insured it. We see that with title claims, we see that with other types of repair items where they say, oh no, you wouldn't need to do that. Then sure enough, Murphy's Law, that's the one thing that goes bad. And when they take it to court says, sounds like you gave the guarantee. Sounds like you warranted that item
Right.
through that piece of advice. Really bad advice for agents to ever tell their clients not to. In fact, if they're really wanting to do that, I would strongly caution against the risks of it, outline.
Explain to them in
Yeah.
very thoroughly, here's the potential upside, here's the potential downside. Because I think buyers at this point are looking for any advantage they can gain so that their offer is considered. So I think it is a real possibility for a lot of buyers.
Yeah.
But yeah, how do you tell them in so many words, hey, we can never recommend that you don't do an inspection, but you're probably not going to get any of these houses if you don't.
Well, the calls that I get are when folks will do an inspection and the agent will say, the results come back with, 5 things that are pretty immediate repairs. And the buyer may even already compromise a little bit and say, well, I'm just going to ask for 2 of those. And they go back and ask for it, or they want to put that down, and their agent says to them, you'll never get the house if we ask for that. You'll never get it. Don't even ask for it. So they don't. And then sure enough, they feel overwhelmed, and those 2 things turn into a little bit more of a project than they even first calculated, and then they want to come back and go after somebody. And when it shows up on that buyer's inspection and the buyer decides not to take action on it, they have, in most cases, no leg to stand on to go after someone, and they're furious. And they are mad at their agent.
So
And
who are we going to point the finger at now,
yeah,
right?
and even if they don't have recourse against you, I think in that situation where you say, don't even ask, even if they don't have recourse against you, do you really want them now feeling this way about you?
Telling
going out?
everyone they know about their experience, yeah.
It's a problem, and it never, under our current Dayton area, Cincinnati area contract, if you have inspections done, if that is part of your contract, you can go back and ask the seller, and the seller may say no. There's plenty of times the agents say you'll never get it, and then the seller might compromise because they'll say, all right, fine, we just want to keep moving forward.
Yeah, and I think there's I don't want to say a misconception, but that the seller's unwilling to because they have 22 other offers or whatever it might be. But you hand them that laundry list of things that are wrong, and now they've got to disclose them as well.
Yeah.
So there is some bargaining power there. Hey, we want this $1,000 taken care of. But I am seeing a lot more what I'll call hybrid contracts or verbiage when it comes to inspections where it's, hey, we're only going to do inspections and ask for any repairs if they exceed $5,000, or we'll walk away at that point. And so we're not going to nitpick anything. We're just looking for crazy, expensive.
And is that a singular item at that level? Because that's when you're going to write this verbiage into your contract.
I'm not writing this verbiage. I'm calling Ann Taylor.
Be very careful as to clarify what your client's saying. Do you mean a total of repair items? There's 30 on those, and as long as those 30 items don't exceed 5,000, or do
Right.
you mean one singular item that's more than a 5,000 or whatever number you plug in, but more than that threshold?
Hang on, I got to go check the verbiage on this deal.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, but I'm seeing more of that, which I think the buyers feel more comfortable with because, hey, we're still protected to some extent and mitigate your risk, right?
And sellers might feel better that they're not going to come after us for a bunch of ticky-tacky little things.
I mean, I've seen nail pops.
Yeah.
seller to repair all nail pops in the master bedroom. It's like, really?
Yeah, right, yeah. We know that. We know that happens. And, yeah, so inspections are important. It's an important part of the home buying process. You should waive them with caution, extreme caution in most cases. And the buyer has to be prepared for the consequences of that. If you have an inspection contingency, you can still ask for things. If the seller says no, you can still agree to proceed. Or maybe at that point you've had enough time to sleep on it and you legitimately say, no, I just really
This
can't
isn't the one.
proceed.
Right.
But to proceed, to not ask, to have that remorse, and then think you're going to be able to have recourse, that's not the route.
Love it.
Yeah.
Agents, don't tell your clients to waive inspections.
Shouldn't be your standard advice.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks again. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
next time.